Smoke, Sic'em 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Travis Roeder joins us, Sic'em365.com college football writer, analyst, and breaks it all down pretty damn technically in many ways at the videos and what's going on. Travis, thanks for your time. There's a lot of players that can flourish right now. They get more reps, get better opportunities, the depth chart, whatever. In your opinion, what position group, and then we can get into that, but position group do you feel like will flourish the most because of spring drills for Baylor right now?
I think the answer has got to be wide receiver. I mean, they lose their top 3 targets from last year, and they have, I don't know the exact number, probably 6, 7, 8 guys right now who all legitimately going into spring and fall camp, think that they're vying for significant playing time at this point. And all of them are super talented. I mean, if you try to kind of create a tier list between the two, between all of them, as far as which you would rank as the most athletically gifted and skilled and everything, I mean, you'd have a hard time kind of deciphering, differentiating a lot of them. So I think it's just a group that it's set for, all coaches talk about all offseason is wanting to create an atmosphere of competition, right? It's dog eat dog. And I think this spring is going to be a real opportunity for these guys to say, hey, we're all on kind of equal footing right now. There's tons of reps to be had. Time for me to go get it.
Travis, I'm kind of waiting with bated breath to see an actual depth chart when they release it, because I think we don't really have an idea of how they feel about specific guys yet.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I'd caution you on there is that some staff seem to care more than others about rosters and depth charts and everything else. And it seems like Aranda's staff seems to care a little bit less about making it, most up-to-date and accurate. I think throughout the season last year, it was like they would have guys starting when they hadn't played in 3 or 4 games because they were injured. I mean, but yeah, I mean, that doesn't stop all us fans and, people who care about the team from actually trying to dig deep and find something out. But, yeah, I mean, I think what's always interesting about spring ball is when you see guys move positions. One thing I've been kind of clamoring for all offseason was to at least try out Christian Morgan at the star position, which is the position that Jalen Petrie played last year. Thought he'd be a great fit there. And it looks like that's what they're doing right now. But, yeah, it'll be another thing to see it on an actual depth chart. That'd be pretty cool to see.
So who is going to be more difficult to replace, Jalen Petrie or Terrell Bernard?
That's a tough question. I think the answer is Terrell Bernard. Not necessarily because he was a better player than Petrie. I mean, kind of trying to figure out which one of those guys is better. I mean, if you absolutely forced him, you say Petrie was a more impressive overall player. But the inside linebacker, which is the position that Terrell Bernard played, is probably one of the most difficult positions to play in all of football, and especially college football. Mostly because it just is a position that requires so much instinct. It takes a lot of reps. And one reason that a guy like Terrell Bernard was so good at that position was he played it in high school. He played it down there in LaPorte and already had I want to say he had something like 170 tackles his senior year or something like that. I mean, it's just a position that he had already had a ton of experience with, and he was able to kind of parlay that experience into playing early at Baylor. And then when you play early, by the time he was a senior, I mean, all of those instances of him just kind of diagnosing plays before the play even started, all of that is game reps. And so I think no matter kind of who replaces him this year, no matter who it is, they're not going to have as much experience as him. They might be more, they're basically almost guaranteed to be more athletic than he was. He wasn't the most athletic of all guys. But you can't replace experience. And, a lot of that goes for Jalen as well, Jalen Petrie's position. But I think that the position that Bernard played, that inside backer, just requires a little bit more experience on a down-to-down basis. And so whoever replaces him there is going to, I think, have a little bit tougher time kind of acclimating. But hopefully by the end of the season, they'll be caught up to speed and be playing well.
Travis, I guess historically we never really know the moment in which Jeff Grimes and the offensive staff decided to move Abram Smith back over to running back from linebacker, and because he was the guy who could do what they needed in the zone. But to me, it kind of sits in the back of my head. If they felt good about the guys that they had on the roster doing that, then maybe Abram Smith would have still been a linebacker. But when you look at the running backs now, Tay McWilliams was there last year. Jordan Jenkins is a true freshman, and now they've moved Josh Fleeks over in addition to, what else you want to throw in there. But does it concern you a little bit that, given that history, that maybe these guys are not wide zone running backs?
I think they have three guys clearly who are ready to play this year that are zone backs. In Tay McWilliams, Jordan Jenkins, and Squirrel Williams. I feel really good about the running back room this year if everyone stays healthy. My concern really is more the depth. They have one true freshman coming in, Richard Reese, who's basically like the same size as Squirrel. So probably not a guy you want to hang your hat on as a true freshman to play much. And so I wouldn't be surprised if after spring, when you might see some more guys transferring throughout college football, if they look to pick up a guy who maybe isn't, a former 4 or 5 star recruit that's going to get, become the instant starter. But I wouldn't be surprised if they pick up somebody just to give them a little bit more depth. I think Josh Fleeks has a ton of potential at the position. I didn't list him with those previous 3 guys, but he has all the athletic ability in the world. And one thing I really like about this move is that he's going into his last year of college, and his career so far has kind of gone in fits and spurts where he's seen some success for a few games at a time, and then he's been injured or fallen out of the rotation. And I think when you move guys late in their career like this, it becomes kind of like a one last shot type thing where it really can kind of focus all of their energy and concentration in one direction. And Baylor's running back coach, Juice Johnson, is, seems like a really good motivator and like a guy who kind of takes his guys under his wing and pushes them forward. He managed to do that with Treston Ebner, who wasn't very good pure running back for most of his Baylor career, but by the end of last season, he became a much better actual runner. I wouldn't be surprised to see if Fleeks is able to be a really valuable piece of the room going forward. But yeah, overall, like you said, I think depth is the main concern, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them add somebody after spring.
Travis, this is a team with Dave Aranda, obviously with Coach Roberts and what he does as well. Is there that last year's what they did to Ole Miss in the bowl game, and obviously 19's defense was a different type, but they were amazing as well. This defensive line is loaded. The cornerback room has been depleted because of graduation, some guys that might play in the NFL and some who had a lot of starts. But I saw a note from you that you think this cornerback group might actually be better than people think, the ones that right now that we think will play. Walcott obviously had a big year. Milton, and I'm going blank all of a sudden. But you
it's
think,
a young room.
Yeah, it's a young, but you really, you're high on them, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. And part of it is too, A, I think the guys are really good that they've got. And B, I think just kind of the scheme for Aranda, corner is a tough position to play. It's a position you'll see guys play early in college because in some sense it's very simple, like, just play man coverage, right? But it's one of those where it's like, easy to pick up but hard to master kind of deal. And I think you'll see that these guys, as they've been in the system for 2 or 3 years now, start to pick it up. And I think it's just a position that, if you follow recruiting closely, if you follow the signing days and you follow the guys that Baylor's been signing over these last 2 or 3 years, it's really a position that I think arguably might be the most talented on the team. When you look at just guys who have the measurables and size to play in the NFL, Mark Milton, Al Walcott are a really solid starting duo, but they've got 3 or 4 guys right behind them that are all young, that all of them, if they went to the NFL Combine right now, would look the part and run the part. Chateau Reed, AJ McCarty out of Brownwood. You all might remember when Baylor signed him a couple years ago. He was kind of a two-way player, played 3 or 4 sports in high school. But he's a kid that you always knew that after he stuck to the position for a couple of years, he'd really start to thrive. I think you might see him do that. Kevin Williams, I think, broke the 100-meter state record in Oklahoma.
Yep.
Baylor managed to pull him out of Stillwater. He's 6'1", and obviously fast as hell. And then Chateau Reed is another kid who kind of flew under the radar. He's also from Oklahoma. He's from Lawton. Another kid, 6'1", 6'2", can run like the wind. And so it's just kind of one of those deals where I trust that that talent's going to win out. They've got a really solid starting duo in Walcott and Milton that I feel good about. And then you just got to say, hey, look, if just one of these young kids hits, then that's a top 3 rotation that you've got to feel really good about.
All right, Paul, anything else? Travis, we will get into much more. The quarterback competition got a lot of attention going in because of what Chapin did when Gary went down. Then Gary came back and played in the Sugar Bowl with Baylor winning as well. You are, no question, I know you're all in on Gary Bohannon. How much, though, will this competition at least push either one of them to even higher levels of precision and efficiency?
Well, I think it's got to, right? I mean, I think, I don't know. I hate how people get kind of lumped into camps, but it's just kind of camps is in favoring one player or the other. It's not like I'm against Chapin. I just think that what Gary showed us last year is really underrated by a lot of fans. And I'll explain why. I mean, I think what a lot of fans might not understand about what Gary Bohannon and the Baylor offense did last year, which was so special. I mean, they were god-awful in 2020. I think if you look at any advanced metric, Baylor was, at best in the 90s, and a lot of metrics had them below 100 in pretty much every metric on offense. And they went from that. They went from the dysfunction. They went from the whole staff offensively essentially leaving into a totally new system, which was basically a total 180 from what they had previously been doing. And what you saw Baylor do last year on offense is they said, look, we're not going to try and install a bunch of stuff. We're just going to install a few plays, and we're going to master them. And I think what some fans have been frustrated with Gary last year is that he looked really good the first half of the year and kind of tailed off towards the year. Obviously, some of that had to do with injury. But I think a lot of that had to do with Baylor kind of deciding, I think you can kind of tell towards the end of the year that they didn't have too many passing concepts installed. And so I think this spring what you'll see is that as the offense kind of continues to be installed further, and particularly the passing game, that we might see levels of quarterback play, whether it is Gary or with Chapin, but just kind of an elevated level of play. And to get back to your question more specifically, I mean, like the competition can't hurt. And it can't hurt that Chapin put some skins on the wall there at the end of the year. I've just kind of been a believer in Gary, and I think he's an NFL quarterback if all things go well this year. So I'm looking forward to that. But either way, whoever comes out on top is definitely going to be a good player. I think they've both shown that.
Travis, great to have you on, man. Appreciate it very much. Travis Roeder, SicEm365.com football analyst, and he breaks it down. You look at what we have with this site, and like today alone, Colts firing away on the story with Brian Nance leaving the Baylor staff as far as in recruiting to go join Joey McGuire at Tech. And then you see what Grayson's all over Josh White, who's apparently visiting Baylor this week. He's the young man from LSU that hit the transfer portal. And then all the other things with visitors for the scrimmage and this and that. And then Travis, Sam Bradshaw, Football Bob, when they break down particular film and whatever else they do, it's pretty amazing. This SicEm365.com as we continue to grow. This is the radio show, the TV show, all what you want to call it. And when we got the incredible staff behind the scenes, it's amazing. And as we continue to